G'day, Ziggy here. I'm the author of a book called Money Does Grow on Trees. We got that one right. Now, I've started this podcast, and my desire sincerely is for you guys to prosper. And which is why I've called this podcast Plan to Prosper, because unless you're actually planning anything, you're not going to achieve any results. And so when it comes to prospering financially, which is what we're talking about on these podcasts, is you really need to plan for it. So everything that I do when it comes to finances in life, I try to plan. Now, that doesn't always go correctly, right? That doesn't. We're not always so disciplined that we plan everything. But my desire, sincerely, for you on this podcast is that you prosper when it comes to your finances. And what my aim is, by the end of it, or as you're going along and listening to the podcast, and as you're planning, then you're on course to prosperity. It's a bit like when you go to, if you've ever been to university or ever worked at something, is that as you're going through the subjects at university and you're passing and you get through year 1 and 2 and 3, then you're prospering, aren't you? It doesn't mean that you've completed it initially. That takes time, but you are prospering because you're planning and you're getting through those years. Well, when it comes to finances, that's no different, because as you plan your finances out, you are slowly prospering, and we know that to prosper when it comes to your finances, there's one ultimate goal, and that is to have enough at the end of the day, to have enough so that when it comes to that word retirement, you actually have enough. You have enough assets that are generating an income stream to cover your living expenses. So that's the aim of these podcasts. So as we go through these podcasts, I'm going to have a variety of different topics. We'll have people that we actually interview. We'll cover things like property and shares and loans and tax and you name it. Now, you might be thinking, oh, gee, some of that's a bit too detailed. Some of that would be like, ugh. Okay, we're going to present it in a way that's actually palatable, in a way that's understandable, in a way that's fun. And that way you have everything that you need to know is going to be on this podcast, right? Now, you can get as much detail as you want. We'll be able to give you links to all the nitty-gritty. But if you don't want to, certainly at a higher level, you'll have enough to know and to prosper. So looking forward to this podcast as you join me on this. I want you to prosper. I want to prosper. And hey, we want to get through this. And at the end of the day, planning to prosper and prosperity is not fun. It's not fun unless you actually have a plan, which means you have some peace of mind. And when you have peace of mind, that alleviates the stress, and it means that you can live life to the max, which is what I'm all about. So let's go for it. Join in the next one. In the last 30 years of working initially as an accountant and a tax agent, and now a financial planner, and now I'm also CEO of 5P, which is our financial services company and group, I've found that there are 3 main problems that people have when it comes to their finances. Now, the first one is they don't have any direction. They don't know where they're heading. They don't know the direction that they're heading. It's a bit like when you chart your course. Now, I'm not a sailor by any means, but if you think about it in this way, if a boat or even a plane is trying to get from point A to point B, it charts its course and it sets its direction. And certainly as you're going along, there's times where that needs to change. There's headwinds, there's the waves and everything that goes with it. So all that needs to change, but you at least need to be heading in the right direction. I found that this is problem number 1, that people don't know which direction they're heading. And unless you have a goal and an objective and some end point, Stephen Covey in his book says, begin with the end in mind. Unless you have an end point and a goal that you want to achieve, then you don't know which direction you're heading. And then when it comes to your finances, you just end up, well, we just seem to be going forward. We have our loans in place. We may have an investment property. We're earning some money. We seem to be making some money. Maybe you're not even recording your expenses and your cash flow. You don't know your numbers. And then we're going to talk about that, in another episode. But if you don't know that, then you actually don't know the direction that you're heading. And that's problem number 1, which is a real issue, because if you don't know the direction that you're heading. I think you're floundering, and it's no good for your mental health. It's no good for the way that you feel. All right, so it's very important that you have direction. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that there's no plan. Okay, now this podcast is called A Plan to Prosper. So everything you're going to hear from me is about planning. Planning when it comes to your loans, planning when it comes to buying an investment property, planning when it comes to investing in shares, planning when it comes to your cash flow. Everything is about planning. Now, even planning doesn't guarantee success, right? Because we know that stuff happens. Economies change, interest rates go up, recessions come and go. But at least with a plan, you can amend and change that plan as you go. So you set your course, you set the plan. So planning is very important. And when you don't have a plan, you flounder. What do they say? If you don't plan, you'll. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Something like that. You get the drift. So planning is so important. So that's the second problem that I've found that people don't have. So first one is there's no direction. Second one is there's no plan. And a plan can be put in place with a really good financial planner. So, and there's plenty of us around, right? So make sure you speak to a good financial planner and put a plan in place. Now, the third one, which is a real problem, is people don't know who to trust, who to speak to, and who to trust. And trust is a very big issue when it comes to your finances, right? Because this is everything. In the same way that you trust maybe a doctor that you go to, that you talk about your health, or trust someone else. When it comes to our finances, this is a big deal. And so it's important that you find someone that you can trust. Now, even when it comes to trusting, it's very important, in my view, that you don't completely trust the person that you're dealing with. Now, let me explain. It's not just, I'm dealing with Ziggy. He seems like a nice enough guy. I'll just trust him, whatever he says. Now, I'm very honoured when clients say that to me, but it's all about you need to be empowered to be able to make decisions that are best for you. And you need to have an understanding of the strategy and the plan that's been put in place, right? You need to take some level of responsibility. And so you need to be asking questions of your financial planner when it comes to these situations. And so never have complete trust, because even financial planners, get it wrong from time to time. But it is important to have a certain level of trust, all right? I mean, that is important. You trust your advisor, particularly when you've begun a relationship, and there's trust in the way that financial planner deals with you, communicates with you, the advice that they've given you, and even owns up to when mistakes are made and fixes those mistakes. That's all part of a relationship, any relationship, and certainly part of a relationship with a financial planner, right? But that's the third problem, that people don't know who to speak to and who to trust. Now, one of the other podcasts that I'll cover the 10 questions that you need to ask any financial planner that you come across, and the things that you need to look out for, okay, when dealing with a financial planner. So we'll go through that. So these are the three problems: no direction, there's no plan, and that people don't know who to speak to and who to trust. Now, as a result of having these problems, I've found that people then make 4 big mistakes. And it's a real issue, because if you make a mistake when it comes to your finances, that can set you back a long way. I've been around for a while and I'm not perfect. And so I've even made mistakes when it comes to finances. 20 years ago, I tried to make a quick, million or two, didn't work out, lost money. So we all make mistakes, but it is very important that those mistakes are minimized as much as possible, because you don't want it having such a big impact in your finances that it derails you from the plan that you have and from your goals and objectives. Most mistakes we can recover from. Most mistakes we can put a plan in and amend and sort of get back on track. So, but these are 4 mistakes that I just constantly see. And if you are making these mistakes, these really are having an impact on your finances. The first one is procrastination, right? People procrastinate. Now, just like when it comes to, losing weight, getting healthier, finances is no different. People procrastinate. It's like it's the New Year thing. I'm going to get my finances in order. I'm going to get my finances in track. I'll get onto it. I'll do it. And a lot of the times we end up being comfortable just based on our intention of getting our stuff sorted, right? Now, we've got to stop. We actually need to take some action and do something about it. And this is where I always say, speak to a financial planner, speak to multiple financial planners, get a gut feel with who you're dealing with, but start that process. Start that process. Do some investigating and researching and reading online. You do need to have a level of understanding, not to the detail, absolutely not, but have some level of understanding about finances and where things fit in. And it's very important from a strategic perspective, and we'll have a further chat about that, is that you have a financial planner that has a strategy focus and not a product focus, okay? Strategy is very important. But a lot of people, as a result, tend to procrastinate. I'll do it one day. I'm going to do it. I'll get to it. I'll do it one day. I've got someone that I know I should be speaking to. I've got a friend who's referred a financial planner, and I'll speak to them and I'll follow them up. And we all know what happens in life. Life gets in the way. Life gets busy. There's family, there's work, and everything that goes with it. But it's a big problem. And what happens is a week passes, a month passes, a year passes. Before you know it, it's Christmas and there's a New Year resolution. I'll get my finances sorted and off we go again. Okay, so it's a big mistake that people make is they procrastinate and sit on their hands. The second one is they listen to family and friends. Oh, this is a doozy. This is a doozy. I could, if I had a penny, as they say, or if I had $1, for every time I heard that my friend, my brother, my sister, my family member, some friends, I was at a party and I was talking to someone and they said that they did X, Y, and Z, and why aren't I doing it? Gee, that's a ripper. That is a big mistake, right? That is a big mistake. Why? Because one strategy or one thing that's appropriate for one person doesn't automatically mean that's appropriate for another person. Why? Because we all know that everyone's circumstances are different. Everyone's risk profile is different, right? Your attitude to risk. How comfortable are you in taking different levels of risk? You might meet someone at a party that says, oh, you know what? I'm into crypto, I'm into Bitcoin, I'm into whatever. That needs a certain level of risk. That doesn't mean that you're going to be comfortable with it. It actually doesn't mean that you need to do it either, right? Because if you have certain goals and objectives that you want to achieve, if you don't need to increase your risk or take unnecessary risks to achieve those goals and objectives, then why would you? Okay, and this is an important one. So when you're talking to family or friends, don't just, by all means, listen, have that discussion. But when you have a plan in place and you're dealing with a good financial planner and you have an understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it, then you're going to be confident knowing that, okay, I hear what you're saying, understand what you're saying, but this, we've got a different strategy and we're on course to achieve that. And everyone's different. Now, that's not to say that you don't listen to what people say, right? I mean, have that discussion, and by all means, it's a good question to ask of your financial planner and to say, okay, I heard about this. Is this appropriate to me? You may have already discussed it with the planner, so it may have already come up to say, look, we're not going to recommend this because of the following reasons. But if that hasn't come up, then have that discussion, and very quickly you'll be in a position where you go, okay, now it makes sense. Or maybe the timing wasn't right for you, and maybe that's something that's being looked at, okay? So listening to family and friends, and it's a mistake in the sense that not listening to them, but following what they're doing, right? Don't just automatically follow what others are doing. This leads into the third mistake, which is Google, YouTube, Insta, online these days. There's every Tom, Dick and Harry, as we say in Australia, who will tell you how to make a quick million, who will tell you how to create wealth, who will tell you how to prosper and how to make money and look, some of them are great, right? But it's important that you have your own path, your own strategy. Don't just listen to anyone online, because there are people online who make their wealth by you pay people like yourself and myself paying them thousands of dollars, okay? So this is a classic one. My brother's a doctor, and when we refer to Google, it's Dr. Google, right? Because so many people come in to see my brother at his clinic, and they have already assessed assessed what's wrong with them. And my brother a lot of times just feels like saying, "Why have you come in? If you already know what you've got and what the remedy is," and you got to hear some of the remedies, right? It's just one of them was getting tomato and rubbing it on. There was some I can't remember if it was eczema or something like that, but getting tomatoes and rubbing it on, like, it's just. Maybe it worked for them. I don't know. Whatever works for you, whatever floats your boat. But Google and online is a funny one, because the problem is you only get different voices, and and you'll get different people online who have different angles to what they're saying. So you're going to get people online who will tell you property is the way to go. You'll get others who will tell you shares are the way to go. There are others who will tell you crypto is the way to go. So how do you know what's best for you, and how do you know how it fits into your plan? Now, I'm not saying that any of those are not for you, that they're not appropriate for you, but there's so much to go through in the process of analysing risk and return for your personal financial situation. You can take that, you got to take those topics, if you like, into context, all right? So just don't take what anyone says. I mean, online, there's one going around at the moment that, a property person is saying, we are in the biggest boom that Australia, or the boom is about to begin, right? Every boom is about to begin. We're in the biggest boom that's about to begin and we've ever seen in Australia for the last 100 years. Maybe. But what's the basis of this person saying it? There was no basis. There was some discussion around it. So, and look, I'm all for property. I'm all for shares. I'm all for investing. I'm all for creating wealth. Don't get me wrong. My message to you is, when you're listening to people online, you need to take that and use the filter of your own risk profile and your own circumstances and see what strategy is best for you, right? But it's a mistake that people make. They listen to people online. The fourth one is people make knee-jerk decisions, right? It's the fear of missing out. And so what happens is they end up buying property that's so far out of town it's not funny, and the property research and that due diligence hasn't been done. Okay, so if that property doesn't quite return on the numbers that have been forecasted for you, then that's going to be a problem for you down the track. Because if you've expected a certain rate of return on that property and you fast forward 10 years and that return hasn't eventuated, then that's a problem for your finances, right? Particularly if there's a certain expectation. It just goes with shares as well. You know, you get tips from people who say, "I'll purchase this or invest in banking," or, there's always some mining company that's, 2 cents and it's going to go to $200. Like, trust me, I've tried it. Right? I tried to make my first million doing that. You don't, but you make a knee-jerk decision, and certainly if it's not part of a coordinated strategy with a good financial planner, sure, it may work. It could work, but there's a high degree of probability that it probably won't either. Crypto is a funny one, because it's you're talking about sort of high level. It's increasing your risk. So this is the latest one. So my message is, don't make knee-jerk decisions. So they're the four. People procrastinate. They listen to family or friends when their circumstances are different. They go online, and then they make knee-jerk decisions as a result of not getting proper advice, not doing the proper research and the due diligence, and dealing with people that have a legal obligation to act in your best interest. As an accountant, as a financial planner, whilst I think I'm ethical and I do the right thing by clients, I actually have a legal obligation to act in the best interest of my clients. And I have to show that when I'm preparing a financial plan. It's not just, I'm acting in your best interest, but a financial plan actually needs to show how this process is in your best interest, how these recommendations are in your best interest, what else was considered, all these sorts of things. And we'll talk about what a financial plan is and what's involved in that in another podcast. So they're the 4 mistakes, right? So just be very mindful of those mistakes. Now, as a result of my experience over the last 30 plus years, what I've actually done is I've developed this program called the 5P's to financial prosperity, right? This planning to prosper theme. You can see what's coming out already in this podcast. We want to plan to prosper, and so we want to have a plan or a program, and this is what I've developed. And so 5P's, first one is to prioritize 2 things. One is, this is the first step, prioritize. Prioritize your goals and objectives. Now, when it comes to goals and objectives are 2 different things. A goal can be, I want to work in a particular industry. I want to work in the engineering industry. An objective is then to say, I'm going to do a degree in the engineering industry, right? They're 2 different things. But you do need both. And so what we do in that first part of the program, which is prioritize, is actually sit with you and say, okay, what are your goals and objectives? And we break down the goals and objectives between short, medium, and long term. So the short term is, what do you want to achieve in the next 12 months? And it might be having a plan, right? That's always a good one. It could be within 12 months, I want to know that I've saved $20,000. It might be that, look, I actually need to consider changing industries or changing work, whatever that is, right? So these are short term. So they're the short-term goals that what do you want to achieve in the next 12 months? The medium is the 1 to 5 years. So the 1 to 5 years is you might need a car. Okay, look, the car that we have is 5 years old at the moment. In 2 or 3 years old, in 2 or 3 years, it's going to be 7 or 8 years old. We're going to need a new car. Okay, what does that mean? How much are you going to spend? How do you actually plan for that? It might be if you're, you have a family, you have a mortgage, you have a house. It may be that you need to upsize. Family's growing. We want to move to a different area, and we need to upsize. And as a result, changes need to be made. So that's the 1 to 5 years, right? So that's that planning that needs to come in. So there's goals and objectives that need to be achieved in the next 5 years. They're the medium-term objectives. Then there's a longer-term objective, which is the 5 years plus. And if we look far down the track, then we're talking about the end, beginning with the end in mind, and saying at retirement or at a point when you want to be financially independent, what does that look like in today's dollars? How much do you need in today's dollars to actually cover your living expenses? Now, a lot of people don't know what their living expenses are. So if they're looking at being financially independent today, wouldn't even know what their living expenses are, right? And that's an important one. It's an important calculation that needs to be done. So your living expenses. So don't worry about what that may look like in 10, 20, or 30 years' time. What would that look like today, right? Because that's what we're working towards. Now, you might say, okay, well, what does that look like? I mean, do I need 100,000? Do I need 50? Do I need 200,000? Everyone's going to be different. But we'll do that work and we'll do that calculation, right? So that's the step 1, which is prioritize and set your goals and objectives. The second aspect of this step 1 is about your risk profile, okay? Because we want to get your risk profile right. And I'll talk about your risk profile and risk and return in another episode, but basically here we're saying, what is your attitude to risk? What are your comfort levels when it comes to investing? Are you conservative? Are you high growth? Or are you balanced? Are you somewhere in between? So we get clients to complete a questionnaire, end up with a result, it goes into some software, we end up with a result, we talk through that, and we land somewhere in terms of your risk profile. Step number 2 is probing, right? And this is when we are going into and probing into your financial situation, and we're getting details of loans and interest rates and loan repayments, and we're getting details of investment properties, the rent that you're receiving, all that information and those details that's going to be required when putting together a financial plan. So that's step 2, probing into your situation, asking all the questions that we need to ask in terms of getting that information. Step 3 is then to personalize it, right? So what we do is we then take all that information away, because the financial plan that's going to be prepared, the information during that probing stage was about getting everything for us that we're going to need. All that forms the basis on which the financial plan and the recommendations are made. So we then go away and we personalize that information for you. We look at different options, we'll look at different strategies, and we'll consider what is best for you. And in the end, step 4 is actually then about producing the financial plan and delivering it to you and presenting it to you, what's been recommended, why has it been recommended, and showing you what the outcomes of those recommendations are based on your short, medium, and long-term goals. Step 5 is then to promote you, right? Now, promoting you is in saying, okay, now we've got the plan in place, we've implemented the plan, because what we do is we draw in other advisors to implement the plan. So let's say there's a recommendation there, or you're looking at investing in property, then we can bring in the property expert. Same with when it comes to loans, or if there's estate planning needs. If you need a will, power of attorney, maybe some conveyancing, right? That's all they're going to be brought in. But step 5 is then to promote you and say, you know what, we charted this course, we put together this plan, we have these goals and objectives. Now we need to make sure every year that you're on track. And as I said before, we've got economies change, interest rates change, governments change, tax rates change, a whole lot of legislation does change, and you need to have a good financial planner that's on top of all these things, because, as I said before, if you set your direction, sometimes there needs to be some adjustments so that you still end up at that end point. So step 5 is then about promoting and making sure that you're on track. We've had a lot of clients that have gone through the program, and the feedback that we've had is that they now have direction, they now know which way they're heading, they have clarity, things are clear, they know what they need to do in order to achieve their goals and objectives. And the third one is they have confidence in the advisor, in the financial planner, and confidence in themselves. And this is an important one, because it's important, as I said before, that not that you just blindly trust your financial planner, but you have confidence in them, because you need trust and confidence to be able to have a relationship, but also confidence in your own decision-making. My aim is to empower clients to make decisions that are best for themselves. And that's the relationship. That's how we work. And when you're empowered, you do make decisions that are best for you. Okay? So the feedback in point 3 is important, because it's important that you have complete confidence, so that when you are at a party and a friend and a relative, you got confidence, you know what you're doing, right? So that's a feedback that we've had from clients that have gone through this program. The biggest one, I think, is that they have peace of mind, right? So they now have a plan to prosper, and what it does is it releases this peace of mind in their lives, knowing that they've got things sorted, it's being reviewed, and they are on track, and therefore they're living to a certain degree stress-free when it comes to their finances. And that's my aim, that you enjoy your life to the max, because that's certainly what I'm trying to do. Now, we tend to work best with clients that are frustrated with their position, right? Because they want to get things sorted. They know they can be doing better than what they're doing, and they're frustrated, right? Frustrated with their position. There's a strong desire to change, number 2. There's a strong desire to change. They say, listen, it's not just a New Year's resolution. I do want to change. I do want to get things sorted. There's this strong desire to change. And certainly number 3 is they're committed to the process, right? Unless you're committed, it's going to be hard for us to commit to the client as well. So it's important that's who we work best with. There's the 3 things. They're frustrated, they have a strong desire to change, but they're committed to the process. And we're going to really be able to engage with clients on that level. Now, this is a segment I love. This is all about debunking myths. This is about the most popular questions I get. As I said, if I got $1 for every one I got asked these, I would be maybe more than a millionaire these days. I would need to be a millionaire. But I love this, because these are questions that I get from clients, and they're important ones, because clients just don't know how to navigate through these questions. So this is a great segment. Now, the question that I get, it's a very common one, is, Ziggy, I have extra money. What do? Do I pay more off on my home loan? Do I put more money into super? Do I buy an investment property? Well, they're 3 great things, aren't they? I mean, any one of those things is a good option, but what is the best option for you? So let me run through a few things that you need to be thinking of when deciding whether which option is best for you. Now, should you put more into your home loan, for example? Well, if you've got surplus cash flow, so after you've paid your home loan, all your living expenses, you find that you've got surplus cash flow, putting extra money into home loan is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Putting your money into an investment property is a good thing. Putting money into super is a good thing. So these are all good things. But the bottom line is, and this is why planning is so important, because the bottom line is, what are your goals and objectives? And short, medium, and long-term goals, right? Now, what we do know is each of your goals and objectives are fighting for the same limited resources that you and I have. None of us are earning so much that we're saving our way to financial independence. We all have limited resources. And so if I have a goal that I want to buy a car by the end of the year, I want to invest in property, I want to put money in super, I want to travel overseas, chances are I'm not going to have enough money to do all those things in the next 12 months. So it comes back to your goals and objectives. So if your goal is your priority, your number one goal is to pay off your home loan, then the simple answer, it's not that simple, but the simple answer for you is obviously to put money on your home loan. If your priority is to build up your super fund, then again, put money into super. If your priority is by the end of the year, I want to buy an investment property, then naturally you know which way to go. But you need to know what impact doing each of one of those things will have on your other goals and objectives. So let's take the first one. Let's say you put all your money into the home loan. And let's fast forward 20 years. So fast forward 20 years, your home loan's paid off because you've been putting all your money into the home loan. But now there's no money that's gone into super, no extra money that's gone into super. There's no money that's gone towards wealth creation, and therefore there's an impact there, right? And this is why I said that it comes back to your goals and objectives. Even though you may have a goal and your priority is to pay off the home loan, it may be better that you put some onto the home loan and some of it goes towards wealth creation. So can you see that the question, although it's a good question and all those things are good things to do, it's not a simple answer. And that's why having a plan and you have a good financial planner is so important. Hey, thanks for joining me on episode 1 of Plan to Prosper. And don't forget, let's connect on social media. And of course, money does grow on trees. Don't you believe it? Join us on social media. Let's connect and let me get back to me with any questions you may have. We'll talk to you real soon.